So God says to Cain, sin is at the door and it would master you. I think people, they always get everything mixed up with the issue with Cain and his sin because we tend to be very legalistic minded people. We think about rules and regulations and we think about God in that context. And there's part of that makes sense when you consider the law and all of that. But this is where people get it wrong. They get it wrong because it's clear in the story. God says the issue is sin. This has nothing to do with that sacrifice. I've heard so many things. People say, well, he brought the wrong thing or Listen, he brings the sacrifice. Cain brings the sacrifice and God doesn't accept it. And then what does he say? He says, if you do what's right, you'll be accepted. But sin, it is ready for you. It's waiting. He wasn't talking about, and I think this is the thing where people get confused. He wasn't talking about some force that existed in the world that Cain was trying to resist. He was talking about what was going on in Cain's heart. The sin was already present. He already hated his brother, apparently, because you don't just in a day go from you don't in a day just go from, that was the chair that did that, from being a guy that's trying to get by to I want my brother dead and I'm going to kill him in a field, right? That is living, that sin that you're holding in there. And, I think the thing that really bothers people about Cain and Abel and the story of Cain and Abel is that they're accountable to God for something that they have not done. Okay? This is like a legalistic mindset, but they're accountable for their intentions. They're accountable for what they're plotting and what they're scheming. And Jesus made it clear that's the case. He said, look, if you lust after somebody, you have committed adultery, right? He said that God sees the heart. God knows your heart. So we shouldn't be upset about that. That's a no. If God didn't know what was going on in our minds and in our hearts, he wouldn't be God. We would be serving fiction. Okay? Fiction. It's not who God is. We serve the true and living God. He knows what's going on in our hearts. He knows what's going on in our mind. Actually, that's one of the things that shows you how much God actually loves you, despite knowing all of that junk, right? Especially, think about, you're probably a believer at this point. I'm a believer at this point. God's changed me a lot. Think about before, when I was an unbeliever. It says, Christ died for the ungodly while we were his enemies. It shows us his love. It shows us how good he is to us. It shows us his mercy and his grace. Because he does know all of those things. He knows all of our wicked ideas. He knows all of our lies and all of the things, everything that's ever been done. He sees it and he knows it. And yet he still has an offer to us to walk with him, to be saved, to put our faith in him, and to be washed clean from that junk. So anyways, if you're struggling with Cain and Abel, the whole thing about Cain and Abel, this is not as mysterious as people make it out to be. The issue is sin. The issue is to deal with that sin. And I talked about that tonight at the men's study. I talked about just how the enemy is attacking us. And look, we need to run the race to win. Now's the time, guys. Like, there's no better day than today to run the race to win. And the reason I say that is because the Bible says, basically, seek the Lord while he may be found. It says there's an urgency about doing it right now. There's an urgency about doing what God tells us to, doing it now, and doing it from now on, okay? We don't know how much time there is, and we just got to go for it, right? We got to live our life completely for the Lord. So I hope that blesses you today. Please take a minute, leave me a comment. Thank you, by the way, for watching this video. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. Also, like the video, and I'll see you again tomorrow. May the Lord richly bless you.